Welcome to the Six Worlds. Today is Shadow Chapter 2, Hunter's Bow. Only on Terra Luna do you get a sunrise at 4:30 in the afternoon. I swear I'll never get used to this 2 solid weeks of daylight routine, Tug mumbled as he drained the last of his coffee. He stretched, gripping the back of his neck in an effort to help the fatigue. He'd been watching telemetry for 3 hours, and the screens were burning into his retinas. While a pit stop only lasted a few seconds, it was a welcome break. His driver, Johnny Shadow Clark, was in striking distance to win if he didn't get out of hand. Shadow was as bold as a driver 10 years younger, but that fearless attitude wasn't always an advantage. Tug watched Shadow roar out of the pits after his final stop for fuel. The Luna Eagle spat a ring of blue flame from its turbine exhaust as it charged from pit road onto the course. The weather was still biting cold, but seeing the turbine flame at least gave the notion of warmth. He stepped close to the glass wall of the crew chief cubicle overlooking pit lane. 2 bays down, the robotic arms of Team Maple Leaf worked with blinding speed to change a MagView unit as their techs struggled to keep the car in the race. Memories of anxious moments, sitting in the cockpit while a frenzy went on around you, rifled through Tug's mind. The helpless feeling of precious seconds ticking away, knowing your chance at victory was escaping with each passing moment. When he agreed to be Shadow's crew chief, he hoped that sensation would be gone, but time proved otherwise. Team Maple Leaf had been heavily favored to win, but with one having MagView difficulty and the other running well back due to generator issues, Shadow's chances looked promising. Yet a sense of admiration for a tough competitor lingered, because winning is sweeter when you beat your peers at their best. The rising sun shone through the clear enclosure that covered pit lane and the crew chief stations. As he stretched one last time before returning to his chair, he glanced upward, taking in the sight of the upper levels that housed the officials' quarters, private suites, and the massive communications center. Across the center straight, a much larger structure housed the central grandstands. This enormous building rose above the communications center and stretched the full length of the main straight. Spectators were treated to climate control comfort, restaurants, concessions, and images of the other parts of the course projected onto the upper glass panels. Beyond the grandstands, the skyline of Poseidon City caught the growing sunlight, and the orange glow painted the busy metropolis with vivid color. The trident motif of the tallest buildings made a striking sight against the snow-covered Taurus mountains that stretched south to the rim of Poseidon Crater. The icy slopes and glass skyscrapers reflected the golden rays, and the whole city seemed to sparkle with life. Back to the monitors, he could see Shadow accelerating on the long back straight that gave Hunter's Bow its namesake. The 8-kilometer section arced gently to the left, but that didn't keep cars from reaching 500 kilometers an hour. Tug waited for Shadow to brake before entering the high bank turn named Crater Rim. Tug was not as aggressive a driver, and trained responses made his leg twitch when he would have braked for the turn-in. The telemetry displayed the evidence, as Shadow asked for all the car could give. Shadow was a pure driver, but that technical and mechanical knowledge made Tug more cautious. Tug glanced back across the snow-covered infield and the viewing stands along Hunter's Bow. Not far beyond was the beach and the icy waters of the Sea of Serenity. His thoughts drifted for a moment to his beloved girlfriend, Kelly Armstrong. She had joined him for a walk on Serenity Beach last week. On Earth, his workshop shared the property with his hilltop home on the California coast, so building cars kept him close by. She usually traveled with him to weekend events all over North America, and they would take an extra day to relax together. Stepping up to the moon circuit was more demanding, and their time apart was becoming difficult. He recalled images in school of the barren, crater filled landscape called the moon, with people in bulky life support suits, living in cramped domes while they built reactors to power the atmosphere generators. History said terraforming took a decade, but to him, this world had always been Terra Luna. This was where his parents took vacations, and he saw his first moon race at the 12 Hours of Antares. From his first turn behind the wheel of a race car, he knew he wanted to race the moons, and now that had finally arrived, but it wasn't without obstacles. Tapping on the cubicle wall, a man wearing a headset camera of a sports reporter caught his attention. "I'm a little busy right now," Tug waved from his station. "Just wait until this is over. Shadow will give you all the face time you can stand." Shadow's voice cut in. "Tug, you still with me?" The crew chief touched the transmitter patch behind his ear. "Copy, Shadow." "What's the interval?" Shadow asked eagerly. Tug glanced at the readout. 2.2 seconds. You're gaining. We lost some time on that last pit. The driver was cranked. "I'm gonna get Sabre this time. I swear to God." "Sabre isn't going anywhere, Shadow. Stay with it and make sure we finish." "Relax, Tug. This thing is running like a rocket." Tug sighed. "Let's try not to blow this one." Shadow laughed. "No problem. It's not even breathing hard." Tug clenched his teeth. "Then why am I showing 102% on the generator output?" Shadow ribbed his friend. "Are you afraid they might overheat in this weather?" Tug rolled his eyes. "Can I talk to Jason?" "Jason is mute," Shadow snickered. "I guess the AI don't like the cold weather either." The comm closed to the sound of laughter. "Can it get any better?" Tug asked himself dryly. Then he glanced at pit lane. The same reporter who pestered him earlier was now interviewing Troy, their pit crew tech. Tug tapped the feed so he wouldn't miss the fun. Troy was a virtual assistant, and if the reporter didn't notice the pale green eyes, he might not know the difference, which was highly possible since Troy was wearing sunglasses and never missed a chance to show off. Tug grinned as he listened. "Alex Shute for the speed feed, and I'm here with Troy, head pick tech for the Glenman Eagle team. Johnny Shadow Clark has just taken his Luna Eagle number 17 into third place. Tell us, Troy, is Shadow happy with the car today?" "Very happy," Troy answered with a toothy smile. "Practice went well, and after some tuning adjustments for the colder conditions, the Luna Eagle started to find her wings." Alex fired his next question instantly. "How did Shadow feel about this track, and is he ready for the bigger, faster moon courses?" "We were excited to get the spot at Hunter's Bow," Troy went on, still smiling like he was on the red carpet. "The 2,000-kilometer event is a great ramp-up for the bigger races. This place has a rich history in moon racing, and it's a fast track. So, for Shadow, the faster the better." Alex leaned in as another car roared by. "There was talk before the season about Tug Glenman. Specifically, his experience has been in planet racing. How many felt he was stretching his skills by stepping up to moon racers? How do you respond to those remarks?" Troy crossed his arms, puffing his chest as he answered. "You won't find a more skilled car builder than my boss, and if anyone doesn't think so, look at who's in third place right now. closing fast on the 2 leaders. As Alex paused, Troy dematerialized right in front of him, leaving his sunglasses clattering on the tarmac. Alex spun around to see him rematerialize inside Tug's cubicle, giving a 2-fingered wave. Tug laughed and shook his head. You really enjoy that, don't you? Yes, I do, Troy replied with clear satisfaction. All the reporters on Earth know me by now. I haven't had a chance to pull that one in a while. Tug gave his virtual tech the side eye and snipped. You do realize I'm going to start getting backlash about why I didn't employ a human for your job? Blame the people who terraform 5 worlds, Troy shot back with his ever-present sarcasm. If that isn't good enough, they can go home and get busy making more little humans, Troy added with a wry grin, making a sexual gesture with his fingers. That's one job I can't do for them. It's 2 planets and 3 moons, Tug corrected him, still staring at the monitors, if you want to count the mining colonies. Troy countered with the faux authority. Ganymede and Callisto only qualify as moons because they orbit Jupiter. Otherwise, they're as big as planets. Hence, I refer to them as worlds. Tug rolled his eyes again. Was your scan model an elementary science teacher? Does it matter? Troy asked with a dash of salt. Not really. Tug turned his head with a serious look. Mars is the only one that matters. Troy took a beat. Because? Tug responded with disbelief. It's home to the holy grail of moon racing. Troy flashed his smile and got snarky. Tell me again why the holy grail of moon racing is held on a planet instead of a moon? Tug turned back to the monitors, knowing Troy would never let up. Similar gravity. But if Shadow doesn't stop pushing so hard, we aren't going to make it at all. That's who Shadow is, Tug. Mr. Flat Out. You of all people should know that. I should. Tug rubbed his forehead. After all, you guys are best friends. Yes. Tug scanned the readout again. And I wonder how we've stuck together so long. Troy poked the bear. Do you need a couch for this? You're the one asking all the questions, Doc. What's your diagnosis? Certifiable lunatic, Troy shot back, clearly trying to keep from bursting out laughing. Me or Shadow? Troy laughed out loud. Both of you. And you can throw Kelly in for good measure, just because she's stuck with you for so long. Kelly loves it up here, Tug countered in defense. She couldn't get the time off from work. Troy kept needling. Damn, I wonder why. I'll bet she's back in sunny SoCal right now, dreaming about a sunrise walk on a frozen beach. Then Tug got snarky. You don't have to worry about missing sunrise with a 48-hour window, followed by 2 weeks of daylight. Tug pointed to the screens and kept rolling. But who do we have to thank for the lovely surroundings? If someone hadn't toasted the turbine at Twin Lakes, we'd be at the 12 hours of Antares. Instead of freezing in Poseidon City, we'd be soaking up the sun on the Framaro Delta. I'm not complaining, because if he finishes in the top 3 today, we're still there next month. Troy decided to let up. Is Sarah coming too? You'll have to ask Shadow about that. Why? You want someplace fun to plug in? Tug expected a snappy response, but Troy's eyes were fixed on the distant turn that fed into the Senna Strait. Looking over the monitors, Tug could see Shadow coming out of the bank turn called Slingshot, and he was using the name to literal effect. Coming out high, rocketing past Katana Yashido in the number 6 Silver Lion to take over second place. Tug followed the Luna Eagle as it screamed down the Senna Strait. He could barely contain his pride for the car he labored so hard to be the best he'd ever built. The sunlight reflected off the tinted cockpit and the striking black and gold color scheme. The eagle head graphic covering the nose glistened in golden highlights, as did the feather outlines. The nose swelled around the cockpit, stretching outward into air intakes that merged into the large rear magview housing. A dorsal fin rose from just behind the cockpit and swept upward into a T-shaped tail. The black and gold theme continued on the rear flanks, forming the Glenman Eagles logo. As the car raced toward Trident Bends, the vanes of the rear air diffuser became visible, flanking the turbine exhaust, still emitting its blue flame like a giant torch. Tug took note of the spoiler wings morphed into the sleeker delta shape. Shadow was pushing for top speed. "That looks like max delta to me," Troy commented. No argument. Tug touched the comm link. "Shadow, have Jason adjust your mag views for more width so she'll stick in the turns." "All over it, big guy," Shadow quipped with that sly tone. Tug took a breath. "I don't see it changing on the display." "Then stop looking at it," Shadow chuckled, and the comm closed again. Troy asked with a grin, "Why do you say mag view instead of wheels?" Tug grunted sarcastically. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe motor and gap variable wheel assembly is a bit of a mouthful, don't you think? Wheels? Really? Why don't we call you a chatty hologram?" "Because I have substance, matter, as well as energy," Troy said, proudly pointing to his chest. "Just not between the ears." "I can tell I'm underappreciated here," Troy ribbed one last time. "I'll be in the pits if you need me," he added, and dematerialized as Shadow checked in. "Tug, give me the interval." 1.2 seconds, Shadow. You're running him down. "I'm closing every lap, Tug. Just gotta stay sharp and nail him on that turn." "Roger that, Shadow," Tug replied as the comm closed. Then he mumbled to dead air. "Stay sharp. Where have I heard that before?" He watched the interval tick down as Shadow closed the gap, and he recalled the incredibly tight race they ran at Borrego Springs. His thoughts flashed back 9 years to Southern California and the first time he raced Johnny Clark. They had spoken in passing, but never competed against each other until that day. The Anza Borrego Sprint was a warm-up race for the Southwest Trophy 1000. The event attracted local racers, but promoters invited Shadow for exposure, hoping to draw high-caliber competition for the trophy race. Terry Glenman wasn't there just to race, but to generate interest in his Eagle cars. Terry had won this event twice and was one of the local favorites, but if he could get a big name on the Planet circuit to drive one of his Eagles, the boost for business would be huge. While making final prep before the start, he noticed Shadow standing near the Eagle cockpit, decked out in his signature black driving suit. Leaning over the canopy, Shadow caught his reflection in the glass and stroked his short, spiky black hair. A light brush of his mustache brought an obvious look of self-approval. Terry reached over the canopy, his hand extended. "Mr. Clark, do you remember me from Barstow a few months back?" "Mr. Clark?" Shadow asked with pause as he shook Terry's hand. "Jesus, kid, I ain't that much older than you." "Sorry about that. No insult intended." "No sweat, kid. I've been called lots worse. I'm Shadow." "Okay," Terry responded in a nervous tone. "So what's your call sign, kid?" "I don't really have one I like yet. I was thinking about Eagle." Shadow chuckled. "Oh, that'll never do, kid. That's just too lame." "What's wrong with Eagle?" Terry asked in surprise. Shadow lit up with a look of recognition and snapped his fingers. "Glenman. Eagle.
I remember now. I saw this car at Long Beach and again at Barstow. You won both of the sprint events. I've heard a lot of talk about you, kid.
Well, thanks, Terry stumbled, not knowing what else to say. So this is the infamous Glenman Eagle. You built this. From virtual drawing to the last nut and bolt, Terry answered with pride. Shadow leaned over the canopy again. This is a sweet looking cockpit. Nice and roomy. I've got to build 'em big enough to fit me, Terry said sheepishly. Yeah, I can see that, Shadow replied, looking up to Terry's 6'4" height. So what kind of talk have you heard about me? Oh, a few things. Shadow looked around, playing at being coy. Like you're a pretty fair driver. Some say you're a decent chassis builder, and some wonder if you're really doing it all yourself. Terry admitted in response, I recently got a virtual to help in the shop, and I can plug him in the car when I step up to Moonracing. Shadow smiled and prodded. Planning on going big time, eh? I'd love to race for the Luna Grand Prix title one day, Terry mused with glowing inspiration. You really do mean big time, don't you, kid? I've heard Nouveau Parisien on Mars is incredible, and I'd like to take my girlfriend on vacation and maybe catch the Luna Le Mans race while we're there. I'm thinking more about racing there, Shadow said with a wide smile. Like I said, I'd love to race there someday, Terry agreed heartily. You keep doing what you're doing, kid, and maybe you'll make it. Shadow started to turn away, but stopped to ask, just one more thing. Is it true what they say about your middle name, or is that just media rumor? Terry blew a heavy sigh and tried to speak, but Shadow beat him to the punch. Is it really Ulysses? My dad was kind of a history buff. Shadow couldn't resist ribbing the young driver. Terrence Ulysses Glenman. T-U-G. Tug. Not so loud, will you? Terry frantically made the cutoff motion across his neck, but it was too late. Shadow laughed as he walked away. Looking forward to seeing you in my rear view out there, Tug. Come on, Shadow, don't do this to me. Don't worry, Tug. I won't tell a soul. Maybe a few other drivers, but nobody else. The PA system broke off their exchange, telling all drivers to report to their cars and move to the starting grid. Shadow turned back with a wink. See you on the course, Tug, and stay sharp. Terry was determined to show what he was made of, and grumbled as he climbed in the cockpit. T-U-G, Tug. Only my dad got away with calling me Tug, and that was before I finished high school. I'll show you some eagle tail feathers today, old man. Once the lights turned green, any resentment blew away with the wind rush over the canopy, and he focused like a micro laser on the black and silver Merlin Wraith with Shadow at the wheel. Tenaciously, they maneuvered against each other for 50 laps, and when the checkered light bar flashed, Terry was in front by half a car length. He pulled the Eagle into victory lane, and while he'd been there before, today he knocked off a big-time planet racer. He raised the canopy and pulled off his helmet to the cheers of the crowd, and by the time he was out of the car, reporters were already firing questions. How does it feel to defeat a Planet Grand Prix champion? Did you have a game plan all along? Does this mean you'll be moving up to the top events? They overlapped each other with a fever pitch. The questions were so rapid fire he couldn't begin to single them out. So he went for the safe cliche. It feels great. Shadow was the best I've ever faced, and the car was perfect. On the inside, he was about to burst. Just as he was throwing his driving glove into the crowd, he felt an arm clamp his shoulder. A quick glance told him it was Shadow standing by his side, smiling and waving to the cameras.
Suddenly, all of the questions were directed at him. What was this clown trying to do? Shadow raised his hand, and instantly the mayhem went down a few notches. This kid drove a brilliant race today, Shadow announced. I gave it all I had, and he never let up. For those of you who don't know, he built this machine he drove to victory today, the Glenman Eagle. Remember that name, folks, because you're going to be hearing it a lot more often. Tug Glenman will be building all the cars for my new race team. Tug didn't know if he should strangle him with his bare hands or kiss him, but either way, he was speechless. Shadow grinned under the barrage of pictures and questions regarding his announcement, but he passed them off with casual aplomb. It took until the next day for the full impact to sink in. Shadow had just stepped away from a major contract with Team Willingham to venture out on his own. Shadow meant what he said, and soon after ordered his first car, along with bringing Tug on board as a second driver. They proved to be tough competitors, but their friendship grew as Tug kept building better cars, trying to come up with a machine that would stand up under Shadow's all-out driving style. The process paid big results as Tug kept improving his driving skills and pushing Shadow harder in every race. Within 6 years, they won 2 Planet Grand Prix titles and enough podium finishes to qualify for the Moon Circuit. As much as Tug was excited about the opportunity, he had reservations about building the car. The Moonracer was a different animal from his present chassis platform, but Shadow insisted that he wouldn't drive anyone else's machine. 2 warning indicators and a red flag on the telemetry monitor grabbed Tug's attention. Shadow's voice came ringing. I got him in my sights, Tug. I'm gonna take him down. Tug looked back at the monitor, reading the generator output at 105%. Why so hot on the generators? I'm overdriving the front mag views to make her come out of the turns harder. Tug tried to slow Shadow's growing red mist. I'm showing a lot of traction slip on the rear. Increase your contact width so she'll hold the surface better. She's a little slippy, but she's fast. Shadow came back, his voice chomping on the bit. Gonna take him hard and high. Tug pleaded urgently. You can do that without 105 on the generators. If they hit upper limit, they're going to scram and shut down. Jason will take care of that. Shadow snipped and closed the comlink. Tug knew that response meant anything else would simply bounce off Shadow's helmet. He kicked the chair hard enough to bounce off the cubicle wall. Tug now had the attention of most of the other crew chiefs as he peeled off his transmitter earpiece, slamming it on the desk as he ran it loudly. Thank you for listening, you shit for brains moron. Troy popped back into the room. Did you call for me? As he retrieved the chair and plopped down, Tug's silent stare was answer enough. Now all he could do was watch and hope Jason would tell him if anything was going wrong. He hated to admit it, but Shadow was absolutely right about Saber. There's no chance he'd stray off his plotted course. It's down to Mr. Flatout and the Iceman, Troy chimed in a faux announcer's voice. Shadow and Saber down to the wire. This is racing at its best. I wish I could agree, Tug grumbled. We've been here too often. Saber doesn't care if he wins by a meter or a mile. Glaring down from the podium seems to be his favorite part of racing. He easily qualifies for Antares, Troy said with curiosity. Why's he here anyway? Because he's a stone-cold machine, Tug grunted at the thought. At the shorter tracks, he and Katana can hone their tactics against each other. Troy raised a confident finger, pointing at the track. We've got the better car today. I say the Frenchman goes down. Tug replaced the transmitter patch. I hope you're right, because Shadow sees red every time he tangles with Saber, and that makes me nervous. In the cockpit of the Luna Eagle, Shadow scanned his head up display and the rear view images projected on either side. Katana was still visible, but not close enough to be a threat. Shadow said the name Jason, and the instrument screen displayed the face of his onboard AI, a slender young man with a small goatee and spiky black hair. Shadow asked, "Can we squeeze more power out of this thing?" Jason replied in digital monotone, "Any further overdrive of MagView units will risk proper polarity inversion for braking. Traction is compromised unless you choose a larger contact patch. Can you give me any more turbine power on the straights?" "We are near heat limit," Jason responded. "More fuel delivery will tax injector capacity, but we still have the booster for short intervals. That option will cause heat to be a factor." Shadow took the gamble. "Give me 2% more overdrive to the front and reset the safety limit on the turbine heat." Jason warned, "Another 2% generator output will reach the auto-scram limit. Not recommended." "Then steal power flow from the battery cell," Shadow snapped. "Just give me a hard pull out of the turn and switch the comm link to your channel. Tug's going to go crazy when he sees this." "This is tactically unsound," Jason commented. "Yeah, but that suave-ass Frenchman won't be on top of the podium today. Prepare to make adjustments on my command." Jason acknowledged, "Standing by for your mark." Just as Shadow thought, Saber stuck to the inside line as they left Hunter's Bow into Crater Rim. Shadow took the Eagle high on the banking, pulling close to Saber's Silver Lion. "Now just stay right there, Blondie." Shadow stabbed the brakes, making the hard downhill left into Neptune's hook. Saber braked a fraction longer, and Shadow pulled alongside, close enough to see each other eye to eye. As they turned into the first sweeper of the Enzo S's, Shadow knew he could pull ahead, but kept Saber squeezed between him and the barrier wall. Through the left sweeper, he held position until they accelerated onto the long right-hander called recurve. "Now, Jason," Shadow barked, punching the throttle, and the Eagle surged in front as they barreled towards Slingshot. Tug didn't like the limit reset, but the red flag indicating power flow had been routed from the battery made the hair on his neck stand up. He leapt from the chair, shouting, "Power reroute?" Tug stabbed the comm paddle. "Shadow, copy." Jason's voice calmly replied, "Luna Eagle copies." "Put Shadow on the comm, Jason, now." Unable to comply, Shadow command priority. "To hell with priority," Tug cursed. "What in the solar blazes is going on?" Jason cut into the driver's comm. "You are correct, Shadow. Tug is going crazy." Tug ordered sternly, "Jason, kill the battery power reroute now." Unable to comply, Shadow command. Tug cut him off. "Jason, if you don't, I swear I'm going to take a plasma torch to your opti chip. Now cut the damn power reroute." Unable to comply, Jason relayed the command just as Tug ordered, and Shadow brushed it aside. "No time for that. Give me some wing pitch and hold on." Shadow threw the Eagle high on the bank of Slingshot, and he could feel the rear trying to slide in an oversteer drift. A reflex correction held the car steady as he screamed out of the turn a full length ahead of Saber. Shadow felt an adrenaline rush as the two cars rocketed past the start-finish line with the flashing white lights indicating 1 lap to go. The grandstands erupted so loud Tug could feel the cubicle glass buzz from the vibration. "Give me a touch more wing brake, Jason." Shadow pulled hard on the controls, aiming for the shortest line through the Trident bends. The restraints pulled taut, fighting the stout G-force as the Eagle dug in hard on the banking. So hard, even Shadow was amazed. He held the turn, whispering against the resistance. Just a little more, baby, just a little more. Out of turn 2 into Hunter's Bow for the last time, Shadow could see Saber in his rearview monitor, closing the gap between them. Now to put that cocky Frenchman where he belongs, he laughed, squeezing the boost button on the steering wheel. The turbine screamed as the Eagle rushed ahead, pressing him firmly in the seat. Hot damn! Shadow cursed with delight as he watched the Silver Lion fade. The safety rails were a blur, but Shadow only saw the shrinking image of Saber and the entrance of Crater Rim closing in the distance. His fingers tingled on the wheel, and the wail of the turbine filled his ears with the sound of power and speed. What a sweet, screeching cry, like a raptor diving on its prey. His teeth were clenched in a determined grin at the thought of Saber standing below him on the podium. He was on the doorstep of victory, and the sensation swept over him in a tidal wave rush. Eyes glued to the monitors, Tug watched indicators shoot into the red zones. He pressed his fists together as his thoughts burned like an inferno. Can the lucky bastard really pull this off? How many times have I watched him do crazy shit like this? How many times has he pulled these stunts and won a race? I know he's beaten me like this before, but a few times it wound up costing him a car. In his mechanical mentality, Tug drew a deep breath of hope and fear and let it out, aimed at the car he'd built with heart and soul. Hold together, baby. Just a little more. Just hold together. Shadow's ferocity peaked as he took to the center of the track, setting himself up to take Crater Rim with as much speed as possible. Then came the vibration, the shudder, and the alarm indicators. Power flow red line, mag view overload, exhaust chamber overheat. Jason's voice continued down the alarm list. Kill the power reroute, Shadow grunted, unable to comply, circuit overheat. Tug's gonna be pissed. Shadow pushed on the shaking controls, trying to enter the turn without losing speed. He released the boost button, but the power kept coming. He yelled at Jason, "Cut the boost!" Shadow barely uttered the command when a shower of sparks flew across the canopy from the right front mag view. Relay overload, relay failure. Jason's level tone was becoming unnerving. "Cut the boost!" he shouted again as the Eagle lurched to the right. He knew the variable tire surrounding the mag view was collapsing, and the motor was skipping on the track surface. Shadow was fighting the steering when he saw the slower Team Maple Leaf car drifting high in the turn, allowing him to pass. Unable to force any more left direction, Shadow stabbed the brakes, but not before the Eagle thumped the Maple Leaf machine hard, causing the slower car to spin. He could still feel the boost pushing as he grunted once more, "Kill the turbine! Cut the fuel!" The Maple Leaf car spun backward, and the Eagle ran over the other car's nose, vaulting it skyward and over the barrier wall, turning what should have been a road-hugging race machine into an ungainly aircraft. The turbine continued to fire as the car arched to the right, starting a slow barrel roll like a fighter jet from a past era. Finally, Jason was able to kill the fuel injectors, and as the thrust died, the car plunged into the snow-covered slope of Poseidon Crater. "Hold on to your shit, Jason, and let's hope that's one deep-ass snowbank." Those were the last words Tug heard, and he watched in speechless horror as the Luna Eagle plunged into the slope amid a burst of ice and snow that looked like an explosion. The snow above the impact collapsed in a small avalanche, burying the car up to the rear magview housings. Tug's fists came unclenched as he stared in disbelief. He'd seen Shadow crash before, but never like this, and the communications center announcement was even more unsettling. Shunt. There has been a shunt. North American Luna Eagle 17 is down. Repeat, Luna Eagle 17 is down and off course. Immediate evac. The race official was loud but controlled. However, the comm was still silent. Telemetry showed the turbine and generator shut down, so the battery was all the Eagle had left. The biomonitor still showed Shadow's life signs, but a little comm activity would be a lot better. He tried again. Shadow, do you copy? Still silent. Shadow loosened his restraints and tried to move. While his limbs seemed to be working, his ribs and back hurt like pure sin. The car wasn't as fortunate. The canopy shifted from the snow, from the rock face covered cockpit, leaving it dark, save for the instrument screens. Jason, are you still with me? Affirmative, Shadow. Status report, Shadow asked as he winced. All systems down. Safety cell compromised. Minimal battery power available. Can we contact Tug? Affirmative. Jason made the comm link, and Tug's voice boomed into Shadow's helmet. Shadow, do you copy? With more than a touch of chagrin, Shadow chuckled. Very loud and clear, Tug. You call this one right, kid. I guess my luck finally ran out. Are you okay? The sound of relief in Tug's voice was huge. I took a few bumps, but I think we're good here. Sit tight, Shadow. The crash crew is on the way, Tug said with confidence as he could see the rescued jump jet on the monitor, looking for a place to set down, as close as possible to the site of the wreck, but the piles of snow and sloping terrain were hampering their efforts. Hey, Tug, Shadow came back. Bigger relays next time. We'll discuss that on the ride home since we are finished here now, Tug joked, hiding his larger concerns. The outside temperature was freezing, and conditions were going to hinder the crash crew's speed. Gonna hang loose for right now, but it's getting pretty damn cold, and the battery is just about shot. Shadow's voice was starting to shake. I'll see you soon, kid. Roger that, old man. Tug could tell something wasn't right. There was no way Shadow's jaw would be shaking from the cold that quickly. He was either injured or afraid, and Tug wasn't banking on afraid. Shadow wanted to get out of the car, but hanging upside down in the harness made that a moot point. He tried to reposition, but any movement sent waves of pain he'd rather not deal with. Jason, you still with me? He asked with a shiver. Affirmative, Shadow. Can you record a message while we wait? I was preparing to shut down to save power. Stay online a few minutes. I got a priority message for Tug. His eyes only. Security protocol confirmed. Jason's monotone never changed. Audio only enabled. Record message. Tug stared intensely at the monitors, watching every second tick off the elapsed time for the crash crew. Shadow's life signs were dropping slowly, but that would be expected under the cold conditions. Right now, all he could think about was getting on that transport and heading home. Maybe once back on Earth, they could all hook up for a vacation. Almost anywhere with a beach would be nice, just nowhere with this miserable snow and cold. The bio readings were dropping dangerously low, but the crew almost had access to the cockpit. Tug was starting to bite his knuckle. Hold on, old man. Just a little bit longer. We're almost there. Shadow's heart rate and blood pressure continued to drop, along with respiration and body temperature. All Tug could do was watch, wait, and pray. He never felt so helpless. He didn't know if he should sit or stand, but for now, standing at least gave some semblance of activity. Crew members from other teams began gathering outside the cubicle, but they waited as tense and quiet as the crew chief inside. Some of the media pushed in, but Tug was oblivious to everything outside of the station. Heart flutter, blood pressure dropping out, no respiration. Tug clenched his fists. No, damn it, no! The comm confirmed what he saw on the monitor. Rescue 4 on the ground. We have access to the driver. Medics on scene. Roger that, Rescue 4. Tug barked frantically. Bio readings are critical. We confirm bio readout, crew chief. Tug tried to reel himself in. Shouting at the pilot wasn't going to help, but that didn't change the sinking feeling inside. The seconds ticked off in slow motion before the bio readings flatlined. The alarm sounded and Tug immediately silenced the tone. The reading would flatline the moment medics unplugged Shadow from the sensor harness. That didn't mean he was gone. After excruciating silence, the rescue pilot came over the comm. This is Rescue 4. We have the driver on board. We are dusting off for Poseidon Medical Center. Our speed is Buster. Tug knew that meaning all too well. Buster meant as fast as she will go, and that could only mean Shadow was in trouble. They weren't headed to Hunter's Bow Med Station either, but the Poseidon ER, and an ugly pang slammed the pit of his stomach. He slumped in the chair, and if he felt helpless before, it was nothing compared to now. Shadow was in the best hands, but that seemed like little comfort. With a shaking breath, Tug closed his eyes. If you've got one more lucky trick up your sleeve, old man, you better use it now. The activity pit lane was a surreal sideshow. The media pressed against the cubicle walls, their cameras capturing every move he made. While some motioned for him to open the door, he knew that meant a million questions about what happened and why. They would get their information soon enough. But for now, Tug wanted to hear the rescue confirmation at Poseidon Med Center and that Shadow was still alive, critical or otherwise. He thought about Kelly, but didn't want to chance bad news while talking to her, not knowing how he might react. He reached for the personal communication access on his desktop, but couldn't touch the sensor. Even if he could muster the nerve, what would he say? Probably more devastating, what would he say to Sarah? The comlink snapped him out of terrible thoughts. Rescue 4 at Poseidon Med Center. Driver has been transferred. The pilot gave the standard update to let Hunter's Bow Comm Center know they were back online in available status. Tug reached for the comm link when the personal icon lit up and a red-faced rescue nurse in her flight suit appeared on the screen. Crew Chief Glenman? Yes, Tug replied nervously. Sir, I'm Rescue Flight Nurse Lansing, and I must regretfully inform you that we were unable to save Mr. Clark. Tug stared back, numb and speechless. He could see the tears running down her face and hear her voice shaking. The Poseidon Center ER doctor pronounced Mr. Clark DOA just a few moments ago. She sniffled, but struggled to continue. I'm so sorry, Mr. Glenman. We tried very hard, but he was bleeding internally. If we just could have gotten there a little sooner, he might have made it. She was wiping her eyes now, and Tug could feel the tears on his own cheeks, but he gathered his composure. Flight Nurse Lansing? Yes, sir, she sniffed. Did he regain consciousness? Briefly, sir. We had him for a minute. Did he see you? I held his hand and told him to hang on, sir, Lansing replied as she fought to keep from sobbing. Then you gave him the best thing any race driver could ask for. We call him Shadow, and I know he thanks you. Lansing wiped her eyes and covered her mouth, trying to compose herself. But before she could speak, Tug continued. Thank you, Flight Nurse Lansing, for bringing my friend home. I know you did your best. Thank you, Mr. Glenman. But I did know who he was. Shadow was my favorite. He was my favorite too, Nurse Lansing. Mine too. Tug touched the panel and sunk slowly into his chair. He had no idea what to do next, except he would be doing it alone. Or so he thought, until he felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up to see Troy standing beside him. I don't mean to be cold or unfeeling, but we got to get you out of here, Troy said gently as he dropped to one knee. You know all the hoops we're going to have to jump through now. Shadow's next of kin is off-world, so you have to go to the hospital to authenticate before the body can be sent home. And we both know an interworld racing official will have a formal inspection of the car once they get it back to a secure garage. They're going to be full of questions, and my memory logs are evidence. But they'll hold you accountable if they find any tech flaws. So you need to get your butt upstairs to the official's office and let me handle the media bloodhounds. Thanks, Troy, Tug mumbled as he forced himself up from the chair. I don't know what I'd do without you sometimes. How about we don't bother finding out for a while? Sounds good to me, Tug answered as he headed up the steps, knowing the next few days might be the toughest he'd ever have to face.